Next stop everywhere.
Hello, Whovians. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, ready to talk some modern Who with my partner in time, Jesse Jackson, and a very special guest whom we're going to introduce shortly. So hello, Jesse. How are you?
Hello, Charles. We are hoping that our audience will be amused.
Yes.
And it is good to talk Doctor Who with you as we hit week 3, I guess, of the our big 2020 lockdown. Is this week 3 for you, or have you hit week 4?
Well, this is kind of week 3 for us. But, it's all the days kind of blur together. So, yes, here we are, life in the coronavirus. I'm in the basement of solitude, hiding out with my comic books and my Funko figures and my Graham and Jadoon Captain action figures that I just got. And Hannah's got her 10th Doctor action figure, so we're all good here. And, speaking of Hannah, so, yes, welcome everybody back to Next Stop Everywhere, special guest companion, and all-around cool person, Hannah Skorapa. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere.
Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome. We had such a ball, if you guys remember, when we talked the long game toward the end of 2019 before everything went to hell in a handbasket, and the good old times. Before
when
the
we could go out in public.
Yeah, exactly. And Hannah was able to go to class in college, and now she's studying from home, I take it. So,
Yep.
Hannah, before we get, I'm going to catch up with Jesse too, obviously. But since we're talking to you right now, how are you doing in all this craziness? How are you and your family doing? Hopefully well, I hope.
We're doing all right. Just a lot of watching the news, just listening to what our governor has to say, and just waiting for better days to come. And I think the quicker way to do this was if somebody were to just find Donna Noble and to tell her to turn left, please.
Right. Yeah, because obviously, apparently, she turned right, and we're now in the darkest timeline. So
yeah,
that's good. So Jesse, how about you? How are you doing through all this?
We are good. We had a conference call today with our owner, and he's just really a good guy. He's doing this on his back porch. He's telling everyone that we're doing fine. Economically, we're set, that if this lasts another month or even further, we'll be fine. There's going to be no layoffs. Everything's good. He prepared, my industry now is roadside assistance.
Right.
And he says that part of the reason is he thinks once this ends, people are going to want to get the heck out of Dodge. And so that the summer is always busy for us because of travel.
Right.
He thinks we'll be even more travel, that people, when they get the chance.
That makes sense because everybody's tired already of being cooped up. So
yes.
And the weather's going to be nicer, and yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to make the joke earlier, and we were talking about previous times. Yes, times when we ordered from Uber Eats because we were lazy and didn't want to go out to eat, versus because you have to now if you don't want to eat something, you cook yourself.
Right.
And when we could get toilet paper.
Exactly, or paper towels, or hand sanitizer or what have you.
Yes.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So, but everybody, we know it's been really stressful for a lot of you out there. I'm sure a lot of you are probably having harder times than we are. So if we can do this, excuse me, if we can do this right now here at Next Stop Everywhere and hopefully brighten up your spirits for like, say, 60 minutes or so, fingers crossed. And to do that, we're going to talk here at episode 178. We're talking Tooth and Claw, the second episode of series 2, way back from April 22nd, 2006. So this thing's going on 14 years, if you can believe it, this episode already. And written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Euros Lynn, who directed the very first episode of New Who, Rose, which kind of got a little attention here this past week because of Rose's 15th anniversary. So yeah,
Absolutely.
So after our last episode, we had the new 15th anniversary of New Who. So I know I was online celebrating that online, and I believe you were as well, Hannah, if I'm not mistaken.
I was.
Do you have fun? Do you have fun live tweeting that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't have anywhere else to go at the moment, so might as well. Though I had to use all my willpower not to binge the rest of the episodes on that disc when it was over, because I had work that night.
Yeah, that's it. Rose is a tricky one because you want to you started with that one and you kind of like, okay, let's keep going, right? And then how about you, Jesse?
It really is. Yeah, I have the same feeling. For some reason, I had forgotten that it was Rose. It was the companion on this.
Yes.
And don't know why. So I'm looking I know it's not Donna. And so I was looking for the Martha episodes and it's not there. And then I went, oh, it was a Rose episode. Wow, now I feel foolish. And then the moment when you start watching it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. I'm talking about this particular episode.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You mean Tooth and Claw. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Tooth and Claw. And I have the same issue when we're doing these classic or modern rewatches to let's just watch one more.
Right.
I want to see what's happening. So I applaud your strength in, doing what was right. Yes. Very nice.
Unfortunately, Doctor Who stories and Doctor Who episodes are kind of like potato chips. You can't just eat one. You can't just take one.
Absolutely.
No.
I mean, unless this is Time Flight we're talking about, then
I like Time Flight.
I mean, the stewards are fun, but...
I mean, granted, it's not the best episode, and I'm going to have to talk that one with you, I think. Because it's Davison era, so yeah. I might have to draft you for that one, Hannah.
And before we go forward, I do need to bring up something that I did not bring up last week, Charles.
Sure, go for it.
I don't know if you remember this, but you did not have accessories on the shelf behind you when we recorded last episode.
I know, I slacked. But today,
I didn't know if,
today I'm rocking the David Tennant, 10th Doctor, and Rose Tyler as played by Billie Piper Funkos. So and they could go, okay, yes. Or you can be like, oh no, we're separated by a wall. And we're parallel dimensions, and we can't touch each other. No.
They were doing social distancing before social distancing was cool.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to compliment you.
Hannah had a cool thing on Twitter where she's had her little 10th Doctor action figure up against a video screen, and either her computer screen or whatever, and it had Rose from Doomsday, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Actually, no, it was this episode. I just paused it. It's a scene where the scene where they're flipping through the books.
Oh, okay. So I couldn't remember if it was that or Doomsday, but it was pretty funny. And she's like, I couldn't resist, which I totally get. Doing the Doomsday riff, that was pretty funny. All right. So guest cast this episode. We have Pauline Collins, who played Queen Victoria, and no, she's not amused. But if you're a classic Doctor Who fan, you may be aware that she played a character named Samantha Briggs in a Patrick Troughton story called The Faceless Ones. And interestingly enough, she almost became a companion. They tried to get her to take the place of Polly when Polly was leaving, and apparently Pauline turned them down. And this was even after like Fraser Hines and others were trying to lobby Michael Craze and whatnot, who played Ben Jackson. But apparently she just wasn't interested. So she was in the Almost Companion.
Very
club
nice.
that we've talked about. She was also in episodes of The Saint and the series Merlin, if you're at all familiar with that series. The kind of BBC sci-fi.
My friends watched it. I never got into it.
Yeah, did you watch
I tried
Merlin?
a couple of times and it just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, see.
Not my cup of tea. I did not realize she had worked Classic Who, but I did go to IMDb to look at her, and I went, God, her face looks familiar, but I only went back a few years and did not find anything that I would have watched. I think she is just so well established in this account that it comes across better that way.
She has the kind of classic British actress features.
Yes, I agree.
That makes you go like, oh, but did I see her in that? No, apparently she wasn't in that, but she could.
Yeah, I mean, it's the eyes and the nose that really makes it seem like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, obviously we're going to talk about her as Queen Victoria. Ian Hanmore played Father Angelo. And if you're a Game of Thrones fan, you might recognize this guy from playing Pyat Pree in Game of Thrones. So, Jesse, I'm sure, being a Game of Thrones geek, you probably recognize it. He's also been in episodes of the British version the UK version of Life on Mars, which I'm a big fan of, that featured John Sim in that series.
Okay.
Great series, highly recommended. Outlander. She's been, Ian Hanmore's been in episodes of Outlander and also Carnival Row, the recent, I believe it's on, is it HBO?
Amazon Prime?
Oh, Amazon. Is it Amazon Prime? Okay. Yeah, my wife Lori has watched that, but I haven't watched it, but she really liked it. So, So I guess go ahead.
I'm a big Outlander fan because, in a little bit, as we've established before, it's slightly Doctor Who fan fiction.
Well, it is. I mean, essentially, it's based on Jamie.
Yes, it is.
So. I mean, if Jamie were really buff and ginger.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. But we also had Michelle Duncan, who played Lady Isabel. She's been in the movies. She's been in the films Bohemian Rhapsody, interestingly enough, Atonement, and on the TV series Luther. With Idris Elba, which I'm a big fan of. I really enjoyed that. That's a great drama. Highly recommended. Derek Riddell played Sir Robert McLeish, and he was in the Fantastic Beasts movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald, interestingly enough. And he was on the TV series Terminator Sarah Connor Chronicles, which starred Cersei from Game of Thrones. And on the series Ripper Street, if you're at all familiar with that series. That was on BBC America as well recently, not too long ago. Jamie Size played Captain Reynolds, not Captain Mal Reynolds from Firefly, in case you were wondering. He was also on Game of Thrones, played a character named Jory Castle on Game of Thrones, and he was in the HBO miniseries Chernobyl and in the 2010 version of Clash of the Titans. So, little trivia there.
Cool.
Yep. Got a couple little bit of trivia about the story we're going to talk about really quickly. And apparently at one point, Russell T. Davies contemplated surprising the viewers by having the werewolf kill Queen Victoria. And apparently this was going to be the event that would cause the creation of the parallel universe, which the TARDIS would have been drawn to in Rise of the Cybermen, The Age of Steel. But Russell T. Davies became concerned that this ongoing storyline would have been too difficult for casual viewers to follow, and he decided, maybe not. I'm going to drop this idea. So that's kind of interesting, right? That could have been a
Yeah,
road
that is kind of interesting.
Yeah. So would this be like a Rick and Morty thing where they go back to the regular timeline, or would this just be a case where we'd be stuck in the universe where Queen Victoria was killed?
Well, maybe Rick would put like Queen Victoria in the tube and clone another one, and then bring her back that way or something. And then she'd have like a spider head or something freaky. I don't know, but you got me on the Rick and Morty road there, so I had to kind of go down that road. Also, the Doctor as James McCrimmon, which I love the fact that he used the alias James McCrimmon. He claimed to have studied at the University of Edinburgh under Dr. Bell. And now, Dr. Joseph Bell was a lecturer and an expert in observational deduction. And he served as mentor of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who used Bell as the model for, you guessed it, Sherlock Holmes. So, some interesting trivia, I thought.
I read that and I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? All right, so we got 3 topics today. And Hannah, hopefully you got the topics that I emailed you so that you're not caught unawares. So topic number 1, let's talk about this is essentially this episode is, instead of calling it Tooth and Claw, I'm kind of more partial to calling it, an alien werewolf in Scotland. But
werewolves of Scotland.
Nice Warren Zevon. Yes, very impressive. That's very nice. So topic number 1, let's talk about the 10th Doctor and Rose in Scotland. And let's go with our special guest companion first. So, Hannah, what are your thoughts about the 10th Doctor and Rose?
Oh, boy.
Attempting to go to 1979 and go check out Ian Dury and the Blockheads and, the guys who did Hit Me With Your Rhythm Stick. And then they end up in, 1879, same difference. No big deal. What did you make of the Doctor and Rose in 19th century Scotland?
Hubris on display much? That's how I'm going to start it off. Oh, boy. I mean, I personally my view of this episode has changed a bit over the years since I first watched it. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like, but Queen Victoria, why'd you banish them? Now that I'm older, watching it, I'm like, oh, she was justified, I think, considering, Rose persisting with trying to get the I am not amused joke out.
Right.
And both of them kind of laughing about that in the wake of Sir Robert's death. I mean, I'm normally one who's advocate for the Doctor and Rose because they were kind of the first sort of Doctor pairing companion I really followed through to the end. But this episode is not their brightest hour, and my theory on that is parting of the ways. Combine the whole sense of teenage invincibility with them literally both escaping the impossible via time vortex god juice.
Right.
And you get this sense of, oh, I can't die. Nothing's going to harm me. Why should I care anymore? And it kind of just comes across here. Like
they're just being way too careless is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Jesse? What do you think about that?
So,
do you agree with Hannah that they were just kind of being a little too glib about everything?
Set up. I think it's fair. One of the things that struck me most watching this again, Charles, is Rose giving the Doctor hints about his interaction with people.
Right.
And we saw Claire do that with Capaldi's Doctor.
Claire,
and so Claire, I thought that was interesting that, that was I would not have thought that as a trait that Capaldi was bringing back from a previous Doctor, but it was. I do think they act almost slightly drunk the whole episode. And what I mean by that is, they're kind of giddy, they're having fun. They're, this is yes, they're aware after a while that they're in danger and they're trying to do it. But even when they're stuck in the library and the doctor says, we're surrounded with weapons.
Yes.
Books are the most powerful weapons in the world.
Don't you steal my quote, Jesse.
I'm not. I'm
that
just
was
saying.
Mine too.
Yeah. I get that in as in knowledge is power.
Yeah.
But I also could get the other person like, okay, yeah, that's all nice, but can we have a couple of pistols that we could do to fight this wolf?
Right.
I love, as you guys know, David Tennant is my doctor. It was so fun seeing him back again. Another thing I brought up, you mentioned this is 14 years ago.
Yeah.
He looked so young. Like
he's
that
baby.
Yes.
Baby Tennant.
When I pulled this up on the TV and started watching, I went, wow. He does look like a baby. He looks very young.
Yeah, all his neck beard stubble is all nice and brown as opposed to gray.
I mean, he's like, in this ep, I think he's about 4 years younger than Jodie Whittaker is now, thereabouts.
Yeah, I think she's, 34?
37, I think.
37, okay. All right, I wasn't sure. So, okay. So that would put him about 33 then here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't
No, I just was saying I love their interaction. I get how it was a little too callous.
Yeah.
And cold, but I was okay with it. Just accepting the fact that's what they're doing. And it was just good to see them interacting. I don't feel as much as the later where Rose got a little more romantically involved with the doctor.
Right.
She did not look at me from my perspective as much, adoring eyes on him. She's still just, she's just having fun the same way she did with the previous doctor.
Yeah.
How about you, Charles?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of agree with both of you on this. I mean, that they're almost like, Rose and the doctor in this episode, or at least throughout most of it, they're essentially like giggling teenagers, the ones that they're kind of almost like in that early flirtation stage where they, they laugh at everything together and, they're not taking this seriously. Hannah brought up a great point that they almost feel they're acting like they're, indestructible at this point. Especially coming right out of, like you said, the parting of the ways, which I thought was a great observation. Because this is only, remember, this is Tennant's third story as the 10th Doctor. So this is very early in his run. And so they're being very glib, and in a contrast against, of course, Queen Victoria, whom we're going to talk about in our second topic. But, she's very serious. And, Rose is, and the doctor are making this game about, let's see if we can get her to say, we are not amused. And Rose, bets the doctor 10 pounds that she can make him do, or she can make the queen say that. And the doctor goes along with it, instead of going look, this is Queen Victoria. You might want to mind your P's and Q's a little bit.
I feel like if Eccleston were the doctor in this story, that might have happened a bit.
Yeah.
He
would have gone, no.
I do think, though, that they do shine their best in this episode when they're separated. Obviously, you get Rose sort of leading the servants' revolt and tearing down the chains, and you get the doctor at the dinner table just kind of getting Sir Robert to spill the beans on the whole situation. Right.
Because with the doctor, obviously he comes from that aristocratic background as a Time Lord, so it kind of makes sense that and Rose comes from the every girl perspective, so it kind of makes sense that they would kind of go that upstairs, downstairs route a little bit here, I think. But, it's still, they're having fun, probably maybe a little too much fun. Okay. But, hey, it only got him kicked out of Scotland forever, banished, at least until the Doctor regenerates and can't be recognized, I guess.
Much to the delight of Yvonne Hartman.
Yes,
we'll
get to know Yvonne a little bit, obviously, when it comes to Army of Ghosts Doomsday later this season. But the Doctor, of course, saves the day by figuring out that they need to use Queen Victoria's diamond, the Koh-i-Noor diamond that her husband had got her, King Albert, the late King Albert, Prince Albert. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Prince Albert, and they put that in the microscope, and apparently it refracts the moonlight, so that apparently that's what overloads the werewolf and apparently frees the host from his curse. So what did you make of the Doctor's solution with that? Anybody?
I mean, I really love the moment where he gets the epiphany about it, because one of the things I just like about David Tennant's Doctor is how quickly he just lights up like, oh, this is the answer. And he just starts talking lightning fast and going, da-da-da, hey, we need this. And it all just sort of ties up neatly in a bow when you look at sort of the grand design of it all.
Yeah.
I think.
How about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I think that is so well said, Hannah, that all the Doctors have their own personalities, but there is that, oh, ding, 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 I just discovered this, the light bulb has gone off on
the
top,
light bulb moment.
my
yeah,
head.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that he plays that so well. And it's a unique solution, and I think this is one of your topics to going through, but I like the fact that the person with the curse is like, yes, finish it for me. I don't want to stay in this way. So I really was happy with it.
Okay. Anything else about the 10th Doctor and Rose before we move on to our next topic? Anyone?
I was not amused by their behavior this episode.
I think that might be the quote of the episode, Anna. I think the only other thing is, Rose kind of sort of being embarrassed at her nakedness. I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, I'm surprised she didn't smack him for saying, oh, she's a wee naked child, or, oh, that's a feral child. Just like,
the timorous beastie.
Yeah, and I was a little disappointed she never changed clothes. I mean, even though she tried on the different clothes, she never.
Yeah, she kind of held up that one blue dress, that kind of TARDIS blue dress, interestingly enough.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But she never put it on.
No.
But the BBC wardrobe only goes so far, Jesse. They had to clothe everybody else in this episode.
Right.
Yeah, there was all those extras, and all right. Let's move on to our second topic. So, second topic, let's talk about Queen Victoria, since we're already kind of doing that already a little bit. And we can also fit in Sir Robert in this topic, and also the Torchwood Institute. So, Queen Victoria, Sir Robert, and the Torchwood Institute. Let's go with Jesse first on this one.
Yeah, when Charles and I were discussing what we wanted to do in off season, we knew we had to do the draft. We know we had to do, spring training, and we had to do all the other things you normally do in an off season. A little sports humor there.
Right.
We looked at, and I suggested, and Charles immediately agreed. We hadn't done enough Torchwood. And so, okay, well, let's do a block of Torchwoods. And so that's why we picked this episode, because it is the initial.
This is essentially the origin of Torchwood, the foundation of it.
Yeah.
So
we could have just renamed this Torchwood the Prologue, and I think everyone would have been happy.
Yeah. And which makes it perfect, because here we are, we're doing this is kind of like our little prelude to our Torchwood month. So
absolutely. And I remember being confused with that because, Torchwood was my gateway drug into the Who universe. So, and I've always kind of been surprised why there seems to be this adversarial role between Torchwood and the Doctor, right?
Right.
And this does, I think, a fairly good job of setting up that origin story. So I was really glad to see that. I loved Queen Victoria. I loved everything she was doing. She's smart. She's very aware of what's going on. I did not write it down as one of my quotes, but her story about now that she's lost her husband, she's more into ghost stories and the more macabre things. She's very self-contained. She's very she comes across as royalty, as in sure of herself. I really liked this character, and I was a little surprised with the twist where after she knights him and gives her makes her a dame, that she banishes them. I remember seeing it the first time going, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I think you're right, Hannah.
It's kind of a whiplash moment.
Yeah.
You just spoke the words that came out of my 12-year-old self's mouth.
Yeah. And so I do understand why that she's doing that. But yeah, that's great stuff.
All right. How about you, Hannah? What did you make of Queen Victoria and the founding of the Torchwood Institute?
I think it was a credit to Pauline Collins, because I feel like some people, when they get the role, oh, you're his celebrity historical character on Doctor Who, it's like, oh, I can go a bit pantomime on this. But
yeah,
she plays it deadly straight, and I really appreciated that. I did kind of appreciate also the little historical ties to the real-life Queen Victoria. She was mourning her husband Albert for, I believe, about 40 years, and
right.
She always did have sort of a fascination for the supernatural after that, so I think it does tie in quite well, and she definitely did come across as that very authoritative and classy member of royalty, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's very interesting having rewatched this episode after watching, I don't know if either of you watched Victoria starring Jenna Coleman, the young Victoria.
Have not.
It's really good.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that the show that husbands and wives watch. So we kind of
yes.
This is something I watch with Lori. She's really into it. So I'm watching for Jenna Coleman, obviously, because hey, it's Doctor Who, right? And
yes.
But it really captures their relationship in as this this grand love story. So now going back to Tooth and Claw, it's very interesting to see Pauline Collins' portrayal as the older Victoria, much older Victoria, and realizing, keeping that in perspective of how much Albert meant to her. And when she's talking about things about the Koh-i-Noor diamond and how her husband wasn't satisfied with it and he wanted to keep cutting, and Rose is like, oh, but it's perfect, and unfortunately, Albert never thought so. So that was why she was actually bringing the diamond along. So it was a great explanation for that. And Pauline Collins, like you said, plays this deadly seriously, and it balances so well because, as we talked about, with Tennant and Piper, just kind of giggling their way through. So Queen Victoria is essentially the straight woman to their comedy, and the authoritativeness comes through when when Queen Victoria calls them out, at several times, going like, you may find this, amusing, entertaining, whatever, but this is deadly serious. And in the scene where you're talking about where they essentially are banished from the kingdom, and talking about how just that this the Doctor's world is not her world. and she makes this distinction that, like that this is not my world. This is, her worldview is so defined, I think, partially probably because of her ego a little bit, but just her command, and duty and sense of duty that, just, I know what I want for my country and I don't want you in it. And so she banishes them.
I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but in Doomsday, you have Yvonne walking into the cyber converter, repeating to herself, I did my duty for Queen and Country. I did my duty for Queen and Country.
Right. And, and I'm sure a lot of these, especially over in England, in the UK, they feel that sense of, because it's, the monarchy, it's the monarchy over everything, über alles, to use a German phrase. And so you sacrifice for that. Kind of like, like here in the United States, where, you sacrifice for the country. You put the country above yourself. And so, and Victoria just is like, look, this supernatural stuff, all this timey-wimey stuff, this is not my jam, okay? I don't want this here. I don't want you here. And I'm honoring you because, hey, you saved, people, and you saved me. But now that honoring's over, get out.
I will say, though, it is kind of ironic. I mean, I haven't listened to them when you consider in the Torchwood audio, Queen Victoria gets very much tied up in it all. So.
Right. I haven't listened to that. Is there where Pauline Collins reprises Queen Victoria?
A couple, yeah. I have not listened to them, but also on another side with the BBC audio, separate entity. You have it does not involve Pauline Collins, but interestingly, with a look at Torchwood to the rest of the British Empire, you have one called The Golden Age, which has Jack visiting Torchwood, India. It's kind of stuck in this perpetual time loop. Would recommend.
Right. And I think it's funny, obviously, that essentially the Doctor is the inspiration for Torchwood's creation by Queen Victoria. Especially when you consider, well, hey, Torchwood is an anagram of Doctor Who.
Yes.
So it's very fitting, I think.
No one suspected a thing in 2005.
Nope.
No.
Russell T Davies, RTD, shakes fist.
Yes.
He knew what he was doing.
Yes, he did.
Anything else about Torchwood's foundation from anybody?
Nope.
All right. And Sir Robert, what did everybody make of Sir Robert? That he essentially felt like he was a traitor to his country, and then he ends up sacrificing his life for it.
Oh, poor guy. It's the least I can say to start with, but you wanted to say something, Jesse, so you go.
No, I was just going to say, I think he's a very tragic figure, and none of us know what we would do under those circumstances. Right. Of, they have my wife. He talked about that. Mm-hmm. And, as he said, I tried to, in every way possible, show, no, you don't want to stay here, move along.
Right. Right.
And then I do like that.
It's like, do I have to make a sign and say, hey, my wife's being held by bad guys, please leave?
I mean, you would think for a woman who had 6 attempts on her life that she'd be a little suspicious.
Yes.
Queen Victoria.
Right. But apparently maybe she felt desperate because, hey, it was getting dark.
Yeah.
And they needed somewhere to put up for the night, I guess. I don't know. But
so I thought that he gave himself. Yeah, he just gave himself up at the end. I thought it was nice. I did think it was a little funny going back. No matter how impressed the Queen was by the credentials, she did not let them ride in the royal coach. They had to walk behind.
Right.
This is
true.
Something that did kind of puzzle me. I mean, I know the mechanics of the psychic paper have kind of changed over the years, but it listed the Doctor as protector.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just found that really confounding because, I mean, this is at the point where it's like, oh, at this point we know psychic paper. It's like, oh, it allows them to see what I want them to see, and I mean, I don't.
Well,
think...
even the doctor was kind of surprised, but he's like,
Yeah.
oh, does it? He said, he's all like, does that is that what it says? Okay, let's go with that.
I have high doubts he wanted to commit to that role.
But he's probably like, well, this is what we have to do. So,
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Topic number 3. Let's talk about Father Angelo, those kung fu monks, and the host. So, Hannah, let's start with you again. So, what'd you make of our rather unusual Doctor Who villains this time out?
So, Charles, when I was watching the episode, I wrote in all caps, "Why do a bunch of Scots in the 19th century know kung fu?"
Right. Well, they're very well traveled, I guess.
Do they just cart around the guy being like, "Okay, yep, we're gonna learn that martial art. It looks good. Anything for our werewolf alien master, we're gonna do it." I mean,
maybe the Weeping Angels sent a copy of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon back through time, and the monks watched it, and they're like, "Hey, we should learn this. This is pretty good."
I mean, I was gonna ask, were there any big kung fu movies the year before that they wanted to capitalize on, the production team, or? I
don't know. I think it was very it's very inspired because I'm kind of like a martial arts movie geek, and so it's kind of inspired by the whole that kind of wire fu that was started off, that got really popular with The Matrix, and then other films like Crouching Tiger and whatnot kind of adapted that wire work, so that really stylized, really high flips and the slow-mo and all that. And so I think it was obviously a very overt homage, but the idea of placing that in 1879 Scotland is something that's inside the brain of Russell T Davies that probably only he can explain, I'm guessing.
I will say credit to pretty much the actor for Father Angelo and all the cast, because I was surprised by how little dialogue the monks had this episode, but they communicated a lot with just a really ominous glare.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially and with those shaved heads that they and I think they had shaved eyebrows as well, so it gave them this really unsettling look.
Yeah.
Jesse, what did you make of the monks?
I did think they were very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon-ish, and or Kill Bill-ish, with the
Kill
red.
Bill, that's another one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I thought it was a very strange beginning. You did wonder, where did these kung fu monks come from? But it worked. It worked, the whole idea that this the monastery is all wanting this, the heir of the wolf, right? The
right.
Yeah, and so
what did you make of their plan? Essentially their plan is to make they wanted the British royalty to become werewolves. And that was their plan, to take over the world, apparently. Right. What'd you guys make of that?
I mean, parts of it make sense for the time, because the whole mindset was the sun never sets on the British Empire. So I can understand wanting to infect the Queen, but I feel like there are quicker and more efficient ways they could have done that without pinning down all the servants and going we're taking up this whole space. We are going to pose as servants ourselves, and we are going to do it. Even though we could probably just quietly kidnap her and have him bite her.
And what did you think, Jesse?
Yeah, I wonder, do you have to be in your wolf phase by scratching her to transmute the disease? I guess because we just finished binging The Outsider, which is also transmitted the creature transmits himself to his next victim or host by scratching. So it does seem like there could have been an easier way to do it. It worked. It was the MacGuffin. We got some nice visuals. It was fun to see Doctor Who fight a werewolf. I mean, that's just,
right.
Yeah, as you said, your title was absolutely perfect.
An alien werewolf in Scotland.
Yeah. So it worked out great. And it was nice. I don't think you included that in our first trivia, but one of the things was, Tennant got to speak in his normal voice, which is like the only time he did in the whole series. So, which was kind of fun.
And then Victoria called him out on it. It's like, oh, why are you switching accents?
Yes, exactly.
What's up with that?
Yeah. So I think it was a good villain. I like this episode a great deal because it's very self-contained, even though it does set us up with Torchwood. We have a pretty fun villain that is defeated. The Doctor gets to do it by being clever. And so it was just fun, and I was glad to see, I did like that the host at the end wanted to sacrifice himself, to say, no, continue, end this for me.
Go ahead.
Can we bring up the host? I just wanted to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I thought he was creepier than the werewolf. I mean, I know limitations.
You mean when he's kind of sitting there in the cage and his hair, he's got the the all stringy hair and the dark eyes.
Wait, that was his hair? I thought that was a hood.
Oh, maybe it was. I couldn't tell. I thought he had like black hair, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, because he looks very average when he's just a human being, but the thing that's the one thing that's off about him, that uncanny valley effect, are his eyes. And the way he talks, all light and slow, he sounds like on any second he's going to teeter off and snap at you. So I really appreciated that. Tom Smith, the actor, shout outs to him.
Yeah, he kind of creeped you out a little bit.
Yeah,
is what you're saying. Yeah. Maybe I think maybe because it was all the shadows around that cage, maybe that's why I thought he had black hair. But I think you're right. It probably is a hood that he had on. Now that I think about it, I think you're right. I was trying to figure out their plan, and why they thought this was like a great plan, because like you both of you pointed out, it could have been done a lot more effectively if they had just had the host scratch Queen Victoria, and that would have been it. But my question now is, okay, so Queen Victoria is scratched, but she's toward the end of her life. She's already had her kids. So unless she goes around scratching those kids, how is she expected to pass that on?
I mean, what
right?
What we were told about the mechanics of the wolf was, once in a generation, a boy will go missing from its homestead, meaning it only goes for about as long as its host does. So I can see, why not kill Queen Victoria and just go for whoever's next in line? Makes things easier.
Yep. And remember, once in a generation, a Slayer is born to fight the forces of darkness. Just saying.
Oh no!
Oh wait, that's a different show. Never mind.
But Werewolf Slayer, we're screwed.
Giles. That was he was in School Reunion. So
the next episode.
Yeah, the very next episode. How about that? Jesse, you're muted, so I couldn't hear you.
Yes, it was very because I had got this on Amazon Prime. Included in the episode was next on. I went, oh. So yeah.
But you didn't watch it?
No.
But K9.
Oh.
There's something to be said though about the next times from this era, just how you get the bwah and then the logo, and then I don't know who was editing them back then, but could we hire them back, please? I mean, I'm not trying to be like one of those people online, but.
You thought that those next times were more effective than the trailer, Yeah, the weather. Unfortunately, maybe it would keep BBC America from like shrinking them down to the bottom right corner of the screen, and minimizing them.
That or
Because, go ahead.
that or like the series 11 ones. I mean,
Yeah.
I think they confused spoiler with plot. So you really didn't know what was happening most of the time.
That's true. That's true. But the series 2 ones here, they just smash right in, right after, and then they cut to the closing credits. So I'm old school, so I'm kind of like I'm partial to seeing the credits first, but I get it. I get the appreciating the like you just finished the episode and you want to see more. So hey, here's this trailer smashing through the screen at you, going like, pay attention to me, and and I see the appeal for it. So I understand it. All right. Anything else about this episode that we overlooked?
Can't think of anything.
Hannah, got any final thoughts before we move on?
I think this episode, I feel kind of apart from the reference to what eventually becomes Torchwood at the end, I think it unfortunately gets overlooked a bit because after this, as we talked about, it's school reunion and then my personal favorite, the girl in the fireplace. So I hope people continue to rediscover this one as the years go by, and as people jump on board with Jodie and go back and look at older episodes.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, well, exactly. All right. So, favorite quotes of the episode, best lines. So, who wants to go first?
Ladies first. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Hannah, go for it.
So, Rose asks the host, where were you born? And the host replies, this body? 10 miles away, a weakling, a heartsick boy, stolen away at night by the brethren for my cultivation. I carved out his soul and sat on his heart.
Nice delivery.
Very nice.
Very nice. Jesse, you got a quote?
So I love this this is a very clever joke. Sir Robert, it's all my fault. I should have sent you away. I tried to suggest something was wrong. I thought you might notice. Did you think there was nothing strange about my household staff? And the doctor, well, in that typical David Tennant, well, they were bald, athletic, your wife's away. I just thought you were happy.
What?
I had that one too.
I just love that.
That was good. All right. Hannah, do you want to do the book's quote or do you want me to?
You can do the book's quote.
You sure?
Yep,
okay.
I got
I don't want to steal your thunder. All right. So yeah, the doctor, obviously they're in the library going, you want weapons? We're in the library. Books, the best weapons in the world. The room's greatest arsenal we can have. Arm yourselves. I love that.
All right, I got one.
Go for it.
I saw last night that Great Britain has enemies beyond imagination, and we must defend our borders on all sides. I propose an institute to investigate these strange happenings and to fight them. I would call it Torchwood, the Torchwood Institute. And if this doctor should return, he should beware, because Torchwood will be waiting.
Dun dun dun. Great one. Yeah, Queen Victoria, like pretty much like, okay, that's it. Doctor's on notice. I'm putting you on the on notice board.
Yeah.
And Jesse, how about you? Got any more quotes?
The last one I have is when they're going through all this excitement, Rose says, moonlight, but it needs moonlight. It's made of moonlight. And the doctor, well, you're 70% water, but you can still drown. And I just thought that was so funny that, they are using they're turning this weapon against itself. So I thought that was great.
That is great. And I like one, the doctor and Rose, where the doctor's trying to explain Rose to Queen Victoria and going like, oh, I'm dazed and confused. I've been chasing this wee naked child over hill and over dale. Isn't that right, you timorous beastie? And Rose says, oh, aye. I've been oot in a boot. And the doctor's like, no, don't do that. Hootsman. No, really, don't. Really. I love that. That was great. And apparently Billie Piper's atrocious Scottish accent is legit from my research. That apparently that was a thing, that she could not do a Scottish accent. So thought that was pretty funny.
Oh boy.
Any other quotes, Hannah?
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, well, I got one more. While Jesse's off getting delivery, Queen Victoria, as they arrive at the estate, and she goes, "And please excuse the naked girl." And Rose is like, "Sorry," and the doctor goes, "She's a feral child. I bought her for sixpence in old London town. It was either her or the Elephant Man."
Oh boy.
So I thought that was pretty cute. So it's like, yeah, Rose, you're compared to John Merrick, the Elephant Man. Well done.
Rose, I know he looks pretty now, but you have all liberty to smack him.
Exactly.
And
Jesse, any other quotes?
No, just going to mention John Hurt.
Yes. The war doctor who was the star of the Elephant Man.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep. The David Lynch film, which you can hear more about on Ghostwood. Free plug there.
Yes, indeed.
So, all right. Ghostwood the Twin Peaks podcast. Just saying. All right. All right. So if we got our quotes, Hannah, what's your rating for this one?
I give it 8 out of 10 werewolf worshipping kung fu monks.
Nice. Very nice. Thumbs up on that one.
Hannah wins the category of rating this time.
Yeah, I think so. Jesse, how about you?
I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 steampunk telescopes.
Nice. And I think we're actually all in unison, everybody, because I'm going to give it 8 out of 10 Kohinoor diamonds.
Nice.
Oh.
It occurs to me now, nobody did 8 out of 10 like mistletoe leaves or plants.
Your other one was so good. I wouldn't trade that one. I'd stick with your first one.
Yeah, I figured Charles would do the diamond, so that's why I came up with the telescope. But the diamond was my backup. Yes.
Yep.
So, Charles,
yes. So
this
Jesse,
was a really great episode, but is there maybe another episode that this might remind you of?
Why, yes, Jesse, there it might. So, everybody, we're going to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow back to 1966 and 67 with the Highlanders.
Oh.
Yeah, this is, you can obviously already guess the connection in this one. This is the 4th serial of season 4, written by Elwyn Jones and Jerry Davis. Jerry Davis being the co-creator of the Cybermen with Kit Pedler. And this is during the Patrick Troughton era. So we're going to do another Patrick Troughton story, but obviously for reasons that, hey, this is following the Battle of Culloden in 1745 Scotland. So this is our big Scottish connection. The British Army is triumphant over the rebel forces of Bonnie Prince Charlie. When the TARDIS arrives, the second Doctor, Ben and Polly, encounter fleeing Scots rebels and are taken prisoner by them. They all hide in a deserted cottage, with the Laird Colin McLaren, who has been badly wounded, his daughter Kirsty, and his piper, Jamie McCrimmon. The patrol leader, Lieutenant Algernon Finch, is ineffectual, but a sergeant is much more forceful and takes the Doctor, Jamie, Ben, and the Laird to be hanged, while Polly and Kirsty manage to slip away. The two women hide in a cave, then in an animal pit, because as you do, from Lieutenant Finch, who believes the prince to be one of them following the rumor the prince fled the battlefield dressed as a woman. Elsewhere, the Royal Commissioner of Prisons, a shady character called Gray, plots to enslave any Highlanders still alive and ship them off to the colonies. He makes contact with an unscrupulous sea captain called Trask, who agrees to help him with his ship, the Annabelle. Among the prisoners he identifies for sale the Doctor, Jamie, Ben, and the Laird. They're taken to prison in Inverness with many others, but the Doctor cons his way out and overpowers Gray to make his escape. Gray is freed by Trask, who reports the transportation scheme has begun and arranges for a number of prisoners, including Jamie, Ben, and the Laird, to be transferred to the ship. The prisoners learn that they're being sold as slaves, but most accept this fate, believing 70 years indentured labor would be better than the gallows. Only Ben, Jamie, and the Laird and one of his friends, Willie McKay, refuse to sign. When Ben attacks Gray, Trask has him thrown into the sea at the end of a rope. The Doctor is reunited with Polly and Kirsty, then with Ben, who swam to safety. The Doctor returns to Gray with a concocted story about Bunny Prince Charlie's ring, claiming to know the fugitive prince's whereabouts. He says the prince is the Piper Jamie. The ruse works, distracting Gray and Trask while the girls free the prisoner and supply them with arms for an uprising. When Gray and Trask go to check on Jamie, they are captured by the armed Highlanders, and a revolt begins. Trask flees, is wounded, and is thrown overboard. Willie McKay takes control of the Annabelle and determines to sail her to freedom in France, happy to accept Kirsty and her father as volunteers for the journey. The Doctor, Ben, and Polly return to town, using Gray as a hostage to ensure their freedom of movement, and are joined by Jamie, who has decided to stay and help them find the TARDIS. The party loses Gray, but finds Finch, who has decided to stay, or decided to force help. They find Finch, whom they force to help them return to Culloden. Gray reaches the cottage where he first met the Doctor and brings a patrol of soldiers with him, but Finch arrests Gray for the transportation scheme. The Doctor, Ben, and Polly return to the TARDIS and invite their new friend, Jamie McCrimmon, on board, and he nervously accepts. And the rest, shall we say, is history. So that's how Jamie McCrimmon became a companion. So,
you threw me through a loop there. I thought you were going to go with the greatest show in the galaxy, but you went for the Scottish connection.
Exactly.
Nice.
I went for the Scottish. So I hope that was okay. I know it's a little obscure because that one only exists on audio, but it's out there. So if you want to track it down, I actually have a CD, so I could hook you up. Just saying.
Charles?
Who North America?
Who North America is a great place. I highly recommend that. Yes.
When we get to Doctor Who news, there's a update on missing episodes of how they might be missing.
Yes, there are. There are. We'll talk about that. So in the meantime, though, we have a couple of listener feedbacks. So, Jesse, do you have the email?
I do.
Do you want to read Holly's and I'll read David K. Proctor's?
That sounds great.
All right, go for it.
Hey, Charles, Jesse, and Hannah. That's us. It's been a while since I've watched Tooth and Claw, and man, I forgot the opening with the ninja priest. Also love the fact that the Doctor is also open to take Rose in the TARDIS to go concert hopping. Where do I sign up for that world tour? Yes, I've always said that's what I would use the TARDIS for. So well said, Holly. I have a list of concerts that I would like to go to. Jesse knows a few of them, and the psychic paper is a must for a backstage pass. The Dr. Rose reactions to meeting the Queen was interesting and a bit hair-raising. The bet with the "We are not amused" line had me chuckling. Another reference to Bad Wolf with the reference that Rose had seen the darkness and it shows in her eyes. The special effects for the werewolf have really held up over time. Captain Reynolds' sacrifice to them all really amped the seriousness of the situation and how quickly it ended. At the end, when the Queen honors Rose and the Doctor, all bets are off, and she most definitely wasn't amused at all banishing them. Guess she still remembers what happened with the Zygons and the ditched marriage proposal?
Well, that was a different Queen, but
yes,
okay.
Yes.
Maybe it's in the Royal Archives.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. The Doctor should have stole some retcon from Jack along with his vortex manipulator. And speaking of Jack, we have the formation of Torchwood to stop the Doctor, how quickly that changed in the scheme of things. Also love the line about books being the greatest weapons in the world. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin.
Excellent. Thank you, Holly. Always great to hear from you.
Nice hearing from you, Holly.
It is very great.
Exactly.
Always.
Holly's great. Obviously, we always love having her on the podcast. She's going to be making a return here very shortly. So stay tuned, everybody, for Holly's return to Next Stop Everywhere. And I kind of want to know the memo that went out when, the change of management at Torchwood, like, hey, guys, attention team, we're not going to kill the Doctor anymore. We're going to do something else.
Well,
loving kisses, Captain Jack Harkness.
Well, to be fair, I mean, Jack was at Torchwood 3, and Torchwood 1 was the one who was really giving the Doctor a hard time. So I guess he was probably just finding all the Torchwood 1 memos over the years and just going, nope, crumpling that, throw that in the wastebasket, burn it, no one needs to see that. He's my ride out, nope.
Yeah, exactly.
Though I will say that I now want to have you, Holly, join me on Set Listing Bruce with each of our top 5 concerts we would use the TARDIS to go visit.
Well, we could do that here.
Totally would go see David Bowie. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I'm right. I'm with you on that one. I would definitely, especially during the Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my, because I want to hear Starman live.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my all-time favorite Bowie song, Starman. All right. David K. Proctor writes in, and he has a very serious thing at the end. So hope everybody pays attention here. So David writes in, he goes, good episode, and this is writing obviously about Tooth and Claw. Says, Queen Victoria is a fascinating figure of history and played by Jenna Coleman in the series Victoria, as I'm confident you've mentioned. Well, yeah, because it's us.
Take a drink.
Hello. Give us a little, exactly. Give us a little credit. Great to see David Tennant, my modern Doctor, and who doesn't love Billie Piper / Rose? I love to think that the royal family is made up of werewolves. Yeah, we haven't talked about that. So do you think the royal family is werewolves?
I'm not sure if it's wise to bring that up in light of what's going on with Harry and Meghan.
Right.
Let's just imagine.
Maybe that's why they left. They didn't want to be werewolves, right?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe that's the real reason.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. So David adds, thanks for keeping me entertained and engaged as I wait for my COVID-19 test results.
Oh.
Mm.
Podcasts like yours make me feel like I'm interacting with humans still. Be well, be safe. Thank you, David K. Proctor. So I never got a follow-up from David. So David, we're very worried about you right now. So I hope you're okay, and I hope your test results came back negative, because we don't want you with COVID-19, my brother.
Exactly.
We want you nice and healthy. We enjoy your emails. We enjoy you writing in and listening to us. And so obviously all our best wishes and hopes and thoughts and all that jazz are with you. And we hope, with all hope, that everything turns out, negative on your results. So everybody, please keep David in your thoughts. I was stunned when I got this the first time, and I'm going to give a special shout out to David. So everybody, keep him in your thoughts, please. And David, please, if you have the chance, please write us back and let us know how you're doing, so we can give everybody an update.
Absolutely, we want to hear that.
Yeah. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well.
Take care of yourself, David.
Absolutely.
Exactly. We'll be thinking about you. So everybody, keep him in your thoughts, please. I would appreciate that as a personal favor from yours truly, and Jesse,
absolutely, yes.
And Hannah, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm sure. All right. On a lighter note, if you want to be like David and you want to be like Holly, please write to us, especially you, David, because we need to know. Next Stop Everywhere SMG@gmail.com. That's Next Stop Everywhere SMG for Southgate Media Group @gmail.com, or you can reach out to us on Twitter @NextStopSMG on the Twitter machine, or on Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast, or you can check us out on the Instagrams at Next Stop Everywhere podcast. And Hannah, you're awesome on Twitter. Where can everybody reach you there?
Well, Charles, since you happen to mention it, you can find me on Twitter at HT_Skorapa. That is HTEA SKORAPA. I am also on Instagram at My Lady of Sass, and I am on Facebook.
Excellent. I'm drinking tea in your honor as we speak. And Jesse, how about you?
Well, you can find me on the Twitter at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can find me talking the Titans with Charles on Titan Talk. You can hear me talking...
Or Doom Patrol.
Doom Patrol, that's right. We also just finished on Phantom Zone. We have a... if you're just now catching up on Watchmen, we went through there. I really recommend. I think we had a really good time and gave some good insight into that wonderful series. And then, as always, Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. You can go and hear me talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world, including, coming up this week, Elliot Foskett, who is a police officer in the United Kingdom that wrote an isolation song that went global. We don't say viral anymore. And coming up next, coming up next week, Wendy Hembrock from Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV podcast, and one of my co-hosts on the Game of Thrones podcast I do is joining me next week. So please check those out. Charles, don't you do a couple of podcasts?
One or two. You may have heard of them. All right. So if you everybody, if you want to reach me, you can reach me on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs, or on Instagram, of course, at Charles Skaggs. On Facebook, Charles Skaggs, Hilliard, Ohio. And my blog of geeky things, Got to Do the Thing.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here in Next Stop Everywhere. Your Doctor Who, your Torchwood, your Sarah Jane Adventures, all kinds of comic book sci-fi news. News of my other podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, including the aforementioned Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I do with Jesse, where we talk Titans and Doom Patrol. Waiting for Doom Patrol Season 2 to arrive. The Phantom Zone podcast that I also do with Jesse. Kind of in limbo right now, trying to figure out what we want to talk about next. The only thing that's really coming up is Stargirl. Do we want to talk Stargirl?
Yes.
Jesse's going thumbs up because he wants to talk about the Justice Society.
Yes.
So, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast they do with Zan Sprouse, whom you've heard here on Next Stop Everywhere, my wonderful co-host with the most, where we're talking Twin Peaks. Right now, next week is going to be the 30th anniversary of Twin Peaks. So this very big deal that's going to be episode 72. We're going to be talking about that, Twin Peaks 30 years later. So that's going to be a very special episode, and I'm sure Zan would appreciate you checking that out. So we'd definitely appreciate if you guys give us a listen if you're so inclined, and or if you're just a little bit curious about Twin Peaks, maybe you've heard of it, want to learn more. That would be probably a good one, because we're going to actually do one of our commentary episodes as we kind of do our little Mystery Science Theater commentary as we watch the original Twin Peaks pilot from April 8th, 1990 in episode 72. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Ooh, that will be good.
So everybody please check that out. And otherwise, Jesse, you mentioned that we had a little bit of news. Why don't you talk about it for a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think has been a really wonderful is the showrunners and BBC, the Doctor Who powers that be, have been sending out a lot of fun things. They did a rewatch of Vincent and the Doctor, which we will be talking about this off season. Showrunners have come back and joined Twitter to do live tweeting with them, and there are other things they're releasing, short stories, and there was a new short story that came out today,
yes.
Which is
Press Play.
Yeah, it was just wonderful that the current Doctor interacts with her granddaughter, and that's I'm not going to spoil anything about it. That's all you need to go. No, Charles, zip. Go read the story.
Sort of.
I mean, it's not related to the story, but I'm surprised that in this era, the Doctor being a grandparent has not come up, considering you have Graham over there.
Good point.
Right?
Absolutely, yes. So,
Right.
I just know it just feels like they're really going out of their way to do some good things for us, and as fans, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, and you've got one of the current 13th Doctor writers, Pete McTighe, writing that story, press play. He's written. If you remember, Series 11 he wrote Kerblam, and then in Series 12 he wrote Praxeus. So it's a very short story, but it's lovely that all these Doctor Who showrunners and writers and everybody are doing these things. Like just today, we had Sasha Dewan joining in on the live tweeting of rewatching Spyfall parts 1 and 2.
I didn't partake, but Mandip Gill also took part.
Yes, she did. You're absolutely. Thank you for adding that. Yeah, I forgot about. Yeah, Mandeep Gill was in there. So yeah, you had Yasmin Yaz Khan joining in. How cool is that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I think we've got. I think the 11th hour is coming up next week.
I think
if I'm
so.
not mistaken,
Yes.
with Matt Smith is going to be returning. I know Stephen Moffat is going to be back.
Right.
I don't know if Matt's going to be back.
Maybe Karen Gillan is going to be back.
Wouldn't be surprised though if his mother was active. She liked one of my tweets.
Oh, yeah?
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
6 degrees of bacon, I suppose, but with Doctor Who.
Yeah, there you go.
6 degrees of fish fingers and custard.
There you go.
I bought a bow tie just for the purpose of this rewatch.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about it because the 11th hour is one of my all-time favorite episodes. I love that story so much.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be a lot of fun, I think. So everybody, it's very cool that even in these dark times that we're in, that the Doctor Who community is stepping up, and it's great that we're kind of pushing that negativity to the side and just embracing what we love about Doctor Who, and kind of going back and doing these rewatches and going like, oh yeah, I love that story, and it's a lot of fun. And hey, after you do the rewatch, just remember you can come back here, Next Stop Everywhere, and chances are we've reviewed the episode, so you can get some more supplemental material if you want.
Forgive me for asking, but did you touch on the message from the Doctor?
We did.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, that was awesome. What did you make of it? Because you're talking the cell phone video that Jodie Whittaker did, right? Yeah, that was great. What did you think of it?
Well, I mean, I kind of got made me extremely squeamish if to use the term lightly. And I mean, I did kind of get, this is like Superman taking out the ripping open his shirt, and there's the S, because I just thought of that a bit, because when Ray Holman went on saying like, she has a costume at home that she keeps for public appearances and in hospital visits and whatnot, just very nice. Appreciating the current Doctor.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that. Yeah, the Jodie Whittaker is being an excellent ambassador for Doctor Who. And,
she has been.
And it was great that she recorded it. Nobody, as far as I know, nobody made her do this. I think it's just something she wanted to do. And I think she deserves all the credit for that because, obviously there's other actors, like looking at you, Christopher Eccleston, that don't want to associate with the show. And, it just, it's refreshing, like when people like David Tennant or Matt Smith, even after all this time, they still want to be at least involved in it. And Jodie Whittaker, I think, is going to be just like Tennant and Matt Smith in that regard. I
do think Eccleston is starting to actually turn a new leaf. I did listen to a bit of his memoir, and I can't. I mean, as much as I want to see him back as the Ninth Doctor, I can't say I entirely blame him for leaving because he was dealing with a lot of stuff at that time.
Yeah. We kind of learned that he had some personal issues that he's going through, and so we understand. So we just have to I think we should just keep hoping that maybe some point he'll feel comfortable enough and that maybe he'll record a Big Finish audio or something, because how great would that be? But, if not, no big deal.
Yeah, and wouldn't it just be cool if he could join Twitter for like a live tweet of one of his episodes? How cool would that be?
I know he he said he really liked The Empty Child, so
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be really good.
All you people on Twitter, start getting out hashtag Are You My Mummy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a great
happen.
idea, Hannah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do what Hannah says. Do what Hannah says. Hashtag Are You My
Absolutely.
Mummy? Make that happen, guys.
Right.
And let's see if we can draft Christopher Eccleston into this little Who rewatch we've been doing lately.
He
So that'd be
is on
cool.
Instagram. I mean,
There you go.
don't
There you go. So
harass
now you know.
him, but
Yeah, be nice.
Yes,
Everybody,
absolutely.
be nice. Don't be jerks. And just be nice and be very polite and say, "Hey, we would love it if you did this, and if not, we understand. But we hope you will." That kind of thing. So, any final thoughts before we sign off, everybody?
Nope. Just everyone be safe. Take care of yourself. Remain connected via social media, and listen to some fun podcasts. Listen to great music, and know that we care about you. And if there's something reach out to us. We just told you how to get rid of us. Get
How to get rid of us? We don't want them to get rid of us.
Yes.
We want them to reach out to us.
And let us know, that you're there and listening. And if there's something we can do to make you laugh, let us know.
Yeah, exactly. Hannah, how about you? Any final words you want to give everybody?
well, the best I could say is stay safe, stay positive, follow what respectable organizations like the CDC and the World Health Organization are saying about the virus. And I suppose oh Lord help me, I'm quoting a million other accounts for saying this, but remember, darkness never sustains, in the words of the doctor.
Hey,
Yes.
nothing wrong with that, right? And I just want to thank Hannah. Thank you so much for joining us here at Next Stop Everywhere once again. Hope you had fun.
I sure did.
Hope
Thank you for letting me on such short notice.
No, that's all right.
This is
no,
welcome
you're always
anytime.
welcome.
We'd love to have you back on, and that sounds great. Thank you so much. I'm
We
glad
love
we
your
got to
insights.
meet. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you obviously bring a lot to the table, and we love having you here, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you.
So, all right. So everybody, next time, right here on Next Stop Everywhere, we're going to talk about episode 179, Everything Changes, Torchwood, Season 1, Episode 1, and...
Nice.
Nice, exactly. So everybody, yes, come on back. It's going to be a lot of fun as we officially begin Torchwood Month right here. And we'll see you next time on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.